Welcome to Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today is back again to talk about how they went from making bagels at home to now nationwide, all because his wife Danielle wanted a good bagel. Now many nationwide are not sleeping in order to make sure they get in and get their boiled, never toasted bagels. Please welcome the co-owner of Jeff's Bagel Run, Jeff Perera. What's going on, Jeff?
Biggie, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you, man. I'm so excited to get to chat with you about this. I really appreciate it. I was just about to tell you were my 5th episode in March of 2021, and now you are my 200th episode, and so much has changed.
That's incredible.
So I need to always ask, what's the go-to lunch or sandwich?
I'm eating a salt bagel every day. And it's been a go-to. I've been rotating the spreads, trying different things. But right now I've just been eating a salt bagel with chive and onion cream cheese. And I get a side of lox and I put like 3 or 4 ounces of lox on there. And that's it. It's the perfect lunch.
So it's not rosemary salt. It's actually just salt.
Yeah, just a salt bagel.
Okay.
Rosemary salt, I ate so much of it. I think I just went.
You're like, I'm done.
And I switch it up. Sometimes it's a jalapeno cheddar straight out of the oven, but my go-to lunch, I need a little protein in my diet. I'm getting older, not getting enough protein. So throw 4 or 5 slices of smoked salmon on there and levels up the protein.
No, we do the lox, the bagel lox box. We do quite often. So we're not going to recap. I don't really want to recap too much. Obviously you can go listen to the episode with Jeff on the podcast to hear the story. The bite-sized version, the bagel bite version of it is his wife Danielle wanted a New York style bagel. Jeff figured it out. They blew up, and now they opened their first location in 2021, and now 2026. We're talking 35 locations with 120 possibly opening up in development nationwide. So Jeff, what the freaking heck, man? 5 years later, how did this all happen? This is the part I'm curious of. Like, how did this all kind of go?
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey. So, we opened our first store in 2021. Pretty shortly after that, we were approached by another local baker looking to sell his space and his assets. And we ended up buying his bakery, converted it to a Jeff's Bagel. And that's our College Park location. We opened that in like August of 22. That's when kind of what's happening right now got kind of kicked into motion. We met our business partner, and he had been a franchisor before. He had started a business you've probably heard of called You Break, I Fix.
Is that Justin Wetherill?
Wetherill, yeah.
Wetherill, yes.
Justin had started that business, and he liked our bagels. He was looking for kind of his next adventure, and we just found this kinship as founders of starting something from nothing together. And he had a lot of success, and he was ready to do it again. So we went on this journey together. And me, Danielle, and Justin are this like great three-legged stool that just gives such balance to the business that we're running, which is pretty neat. And yeah, we built systems. We really put our heads down. In 2023, we just locked in and built what, kind of the stores you see today. It was hard. I mean, it's really, really hard. If I'm being as honest as I can be, it's like, you're running your shops and you're building this other thing as you're going. And then suddenly this other thing starts to move fast. We opened 6 corporate stores in 2024. We opened our first few franchises at the end of 24. And next thing you know, we're 11 stores deep with 9 people on a team running this whole business. Yeah, I mean, we had, obviously, each store's got a general manager. There's people in the field, but it was a bandwidth problem. But we've grown this business now. We've got, I think, 24 corporate employees across a bunch of different disciplines. We have a full technology development team. We've got real estate development. We've got a marketing team. We have an ops and training team. It's pretty cool to have to come this far in such a short period of time.
And so there's a few things, and obviously we'll kind of, this is one of the things I was kind of, we'll kind of chat about, because like every bagel's mixed, boiled, baked from scratch. Each shop does it. How difficult has it been with the growth, but also having that consistency at all your locations? Like how does that happen, or how do you handle that? And I know a lot of it is based on process, but I'm just kind of curious, like any because you're everywhere now. It's not like you're like local, and your hands are not really in in the dough on all these places.
It's very true. We have stores in, I think, 10 states now, as far west as Las Vegas. So we are spread out, and consistency and that execution that you want from store 1 to store 35, you want it to be the same. And your customer demands it to be the same. They don't care what Jeff's Bagel Run they walk into. We've built tons of systems, as you alluded to. We have training, we've got follow-up, we've got all this stuff. But ultimately, it comes down to selecting and working with the best franchisees in the business, because these are people who have the same level of passion that we had for delivering a quality product, for creating something that the community can rally around. And because they've done that, because they have great teams, because their community is invested in them and they're invested in their community, you end up with this high level of consistency and execution in every store. Do we make mistakes? Do some bagels get rolled and look a little different? I mean, it's still a scratch-made product in every store. So yeah, sometimes things are different. Sometimes our original location, Ocoee, we ran out of bagels yesterday because we had 2 batches. We have a new baker, it didn't get yeast in it. They just sank right to the bottom of the kettle. And, you can't use them. So we ran short yesterday. So things do happen, and it's unfortunate, but I think it's a really authentic byproduct of keeping that like who we are. And that's really important, because when we show up in a place like Charlotte, North Carolina, or, just outside of the city in Chicago, Downers Grove, Illinois, like people come in and they're like, wow, this is such a great bagel shop. I'm so glad you're here. Like, it's so cool. And you're like, yeah, we have 35 of these. They're like, that's insane. Because it still feels super local to them. It still feels like their shop. And that's the goal out of all of this.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing that I find very interesting to see, because I'm always looking at the pictures of like the new locations to see kind of how they look and how they kind of do it. And I was like, in my research, I was reading about all the different people, especially new franchise owners, how like some of them have owned other franchises, and like the benefits of what you guys do, like the one shift, kind of opportunity. I also look at it as, and this is like, I kind of look at it as the way you guys kind of created what you've created was kind of almost like old school. I say Dunkin' Donuts style, because it's like you guys do bagel, coffee, and you do the cream cheeses, which obviously you guys do quite a bit. Like you have your 16 bagels, 15 are your core, 1 flavor changes. You got 17 house-made spreads, all these things. So I love that, but I also love the fact that you kind of have like, it's very like, it's repeatable, which is what you want, right? You want that consistency, which helps because there's less things to mess up.
Yeah, hopefully. For sure. No, for sure. When you have a simple plan to execute on, it's easier to do. It's still hard work. It's still a restaurant. It's still like a bakery. You're still grinding at 4:30 in the morning to get bagels made. You still got a lot of cleanup and sanitation. Like there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. So when I say it's easy, it's not actually easy. It's just simple to execute on. And I think you're not too far off with like an OG Dunkin' Donut. Like, I mean, it was like, I remember 25 years ago going to Dunkin' Donuts and getting their like number 1 combo was like 2 donuts and a black coffee. And, part of what we're doing in this business is bagels, coffee, cream cheese. That's it. Like really simple. You want to make a sandwich at home. You want your bagel toasted, extra toasted, scooped, whatever, however, do it yourself. Like, here's the bagel. And that also is a little old school. I mean, we kind of like throws back to like when Danielle and I were kids in the Northeast. Like you went to a place to get bagels and that's all they had. It wasn't a deli.
Bag. They would throw it in a bag and just give it to you. Go.
That's it. Take your bagels, get out of here.
Go.
Maybe they had 2 spreads, scallion, plain, maybe. They certainly didn't have 16 flavors of bagel. They didn't have sandwiches or any of that stuff. So I think we're trying to stay true to that. Stay true to who we are.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What do you think? What's been your favorite part of this journey so far?
The best part is meeting our customers and seeing that joy. It's like I've been chasing this like high from the first bagel I ever fed Danielle that she liked, right? Like there were a lot of bad bagels. And then when she finally got the one and that first bite and she like was taken back and transported, because food is memory. Food is this like emotional experience, and like there's love in that. And I'm still chasing that high from that first time that she took that bite, and I could see in her face exactly where she went. I see that like every single time we open a new store. Whenever a new customer comes in, they're like, oh, it's my first time. I was like, oh, please try this bagel. Eat this one. Here's some cream cheese. You got to try it. And like watching those people have that same response, like this is my childhood. This is a memory. This is something that resonates deeper than just like, oh, it's some food.
Yeah. No, I love that. Do you Do you think has your definition of success changed from the time you started Jeff's Bagel Run to now?
I got to go back and listen to the first pod that we did together. Did I have a definition for success back then?
Probably not. I probably didn't ask you what your recipe for success was just yet, because you were just, you blew up, but you just kind of starting, which is kind of the amazing part of it. And then like, it makes sense. But to me, I think is one of those where like, did you and Danielle like have that conversation, or like expect like that you were going to get Justin, like all of a sudden Justin was going to call you up and you guys were going to be like, hey, why don't we do this? Like, it literally, and then you guys just like spread like wildfire, you know?
Yeah. So franchising was not planned at all. I mean, honestly, I think the last time we talked, I don't even know if we'd signed our lease yet for our first shop.
No,
and we were still talking about it.
Yeah, you were about to.
I think I was alluding to it with you. I was like, I think there's something exciting coming, you know. And Danielle was like, we were going to sign that lease and she was going to keep working her full-time job. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was this process of building the store and getting it set up and the community outreach. Like when we first opened, we had this huge Kickstarter campaign and people came out and like, so we suddenly had, you were one of them. You're right. Yeah, no doubt. And so we had this connection to the community that was deeper than just like transactional. And so that's when Danielle really went full bagel. Franchising was never an idea. You know, we ended up taking a meeting with Justin probably like 4 months after we were initially approached by him. The initial approach came from someone on his team, and Danielle's dad had passed like within like weeks of that first conversation. So we were just trying to figure out our life. We pushed everything off. And when we finally were like, okay, let's take the meeting, it was more of like, look, this is like, not like YOLO, but you know, like kind of what would dad have said? You know, he would have been like, take the meeting, sit down. Who cares? The guy's like smart. He grew a big business. Maybe he can help you, even if you don't do anything with him. So that's what we did. And it turned into this, which is incredible. And it's beyond our wildest dreams. And, you know, we got lucky. Justin's a great partner. He's, you know, an incredible human being. And he has, you know, a strong sense of vision, and it aligns to what we're doing. And he trusts us to run the business, and we trust him. And so it works out really well. Not all partnerships work that way. But, you know, your initial question was, how do I define success? And I think I didn't answer it back then because you didn't ask it. And I was just wondering if you had, because I think it would be slightly different now. I had lost my job. I was like a stay-at-home dad, and I was some guy making bagels in my house. My kids thought I was super, you know, air quotes, cringe. Like, who's this guy posting on Instagram selling bagels? And, you know, I didn't care. You know, I was like, success was like being happy. Success was Danielle enjoying a bagel that I created for her. So I look at success now and I think like it's less about what you achieve and more about how you feel in the journey, more about how, you know, have you met your own expectations? I think that's really for me what success looks like. And I think the biggest change in that is I don't put my expectations against anybody else's. That's the biggest change for me. You know, what your success is different than my success.
Correct.
And that's the key. I don't know if I knew that, you know, 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yeah. Which is, well, I mean, and I also kind of figure that sometimes the goals and things like that will also probably because I've talked to other folks that say sometimes your goal is almost like a moving goalpost. Like sometimes you're like, oh, I reached this now. Now let's see what else we can do. Let's just keep climbing and see what happens. And also your definition of success, like you said, may change. You may realize, hey, this is not really what I want. I prefer this. And it just kind of, it's an evolution of things. One of the things that you were talking about when it came to like aside from the great bagels, the spreads, you offer my favorite coffee. And that's Otis coffee. I've talked about, you know, and I know I want you to talk a little bit about like that fun, because obviously, and if you haven't heard, like Glenn's also been on my podcast, you know, heck, we have a coffee subscription of Otis coffee in my house. This is the only thing we drink in our house. So like when we go to Just Bagel Run, it's like we get a coffee there, even though I may be drinking a coffee on the way to you. It still happens, but I want you to talk a little bit about that partnership and how it's grown. And then, you know, and for people to kind of know a little bit more about that, because that's one of the things that I think makes you guys so special is that you have great coffee and you have great bagels and the spreads. I mean, it's just like a really good combination. And I just think more people need to know about it. Like I keep pubbing up the coffee as well, because I'm like, have you had the coffee? Like, gotta have a coffee if you're going to get a bagel.
Absolutely. The coffee program at Jeff's Bagel when we first started was cold brew and drip. That was it. And I always told Glenn, you know, Glenn was my neighbor. He started roasting coffee in his garage as a hobbyist, lost his job during the pandemic, went full coffee, really built himself out a roastery, like built a little business around his coffee and sold to a lot of shops in town. And as we opened our first store, I was like, I'm gonna be your biggest partner one day. And he's like, there's no way, dude. Like, you don't sell espresso. You've got like 10 pounds of coffee you're buying from me a week for like drip and cold brew. That's it. And then we opened a second store and I was like, am I there yet? Am I your biggest partner? He's like, not even close. You know, I've got shops in town buying 50 pounds of coffee a week. And then we made the deal with Justin to open some stores and try to franchise this business. And suddenly we're staring down, 80, 90, 100 stores coming. And we're like, we need to shore up this coffee program. We're going to add espresso. We're going to really create something that is special. The bagel's great. The spreads are great. The coffee has to be great. And Glenn was already the partner. We just wanted to make sure that it was solidified. And so in 2024, we actually acquired Otis Coffee, vertically integrated the whole roasting process into Jeff's Bagel Run. Now Glenn and Jacqueline are on the team. Glenn is still overseeing coffee roasting, but he has a team now, and he actually is on our supply chain team. His evolution through this process of buying tiny little sample bags of green coffee and roasting them in his little 1K roaster that he had in his garage to now we have a 100K roaster in the warehouse and we're putting 150, 200 pounds of coffee in that thing at a time. So it's pretty cool to see how fast we've grown. And you know what? The coffee's great. The original Jeff's Coffee Run bag said, come for the bagels, stay for the coffee. And our goal was always to have sneaky good coffee. Like, you should get a bagel, be like, I know what I'm getting with the bagel. And then be like, oh, wow, the coffee's really good too. And so, because you don't always get that in both places, we can argue the merits of Starbucks coffee. Some people like it, some people don't, whatever. But the food is hands down bad. It's just like frozen, reheated stuff, right? So you never really get both. And that's something that I think we deliver on at Jeff's is you get both. You get great coffee and a great bagel.
Yes. And great service.
Yeah. I think that's really the component to what we do as well. That's like a little different than other places. And we talk about this as like a differentiation point for us. Like, we believe that hospitality should be something that you receive, even in a quick service or a fast casual environment. Like, you should be seen. You should feel recognized. You should feel appreciated. I should know that Anthony's walking in and he likes a rosemary salt bagel and his favorite coffee is a cinnamon vanilla latte. Like, I should know that. And we train our teams to that. We ask our franchisees to execute to that, because that is a differentiator. That is some of the magic that happened in that first store. We knew everybody who walked in. And if we didn't know you when you walked in, we wanted to know you by the time you left. And that carries from store to store to store, which is pretty neat.
Which I think is also very interesting, because your transaction time it's not like you're spending a long period of time. It's literally, I'm picking a few minutes. So to be able to have that connection in such a short period of time, I think is so invaluable, because obviously you want that repetitiveness of every single person coming in and out of it. What do you think is something that people don't understand about this transition and growth and adjustment that you've made so far? Like, what do you think is people fail to see? Because they obviously see the whole, wow, he's exploded. But I mean, you seem like the same, you know what I mean? Like, to me, you're the same Jeff, wanting to make bagels, getting your hands dirty, doing all that stuff. But I'm just kind of curious, like, what is the thing that we're not seeing, that we don't understand during this whole transition?
Love this question. I think I am still that same person. I mean, I try to be really active on social. I have help now. We have a social media manager. She really keeps me in line. She tells me to show for content days. So that part's changed. It's a little less on the fly, a little more thought out. The biggest change, though, and the thing that I would venture to guess that most people don't understand, is how planful we are, how thoughtful and forward we are. Our Bagel of the Day calendar is written all the way through December. Like, we have the full year baked, pun intended. I could tell you the Bagel of the Day on, November 19th if you wanted to know it. We're already mapping the strategy for LTOs all the way through summer of 2027. And menu innovation is already happening. We're already in the kitchen, trying new things, testing recipes. So stuff that I used to do on a Monday for fun to try to roll out on a Wednesday is now happening months in advance. We just launched our ice cream summer LTO in collaboration with Jeremiah's Italian Ice. And that collaboration started last summer when I first met Jeremy we sat down and I just told him straight up, I was like, listen, I said, I believe that if it can be ice cream, it can be cream cheese. And he's like, I love this. What are we doing? And that's where that started. But then I had to meet his research and development team, and we had to go into the kitchen, and could we just take Scoop Froggy Frog and the stuff that they used to make the ice? Could we just put it in cream cheese and add some chocolate chips? Turns out you can't. They're making a very different product than we are. So we had to evolve and develop that. So I think those are the things that people who just casually know the brand and eat there every day, maybe roll up on a Tuesday and then a Saturday or whatever, get a bagel and a cream cheese and a coffee and go, are probably not thinking about.
So I am now I'm curious because you said it, the bagel, since it's the bagel of the day. I'm not going to ask you a specific date. My birthday is September 20th, but that's not what I'm asking you. So is the bagel of the day the same at all 35 locations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We execute the bagel of the day across all 35 locations. Our customer app, you can see the bagel of the day in there, and it executes across all of September 20th right now. And I mean, it's all subject to change, but Spicy Cheez-It is the bagel of the day potentially. Okay. That's what I have on the calendar. So
nice. I actually love Cheez-Its, so that kind of works out very well.
Delicious.
So we'll bring this up just because I know we've brought it up in the past, but I have to bring it up because people will talk about this, and you've even mentioned it before, but it won't now just talking with us. Can you talk about why, can we just let's just put it out there. I know you've brought it up, but I'm just going to give another platform for you. Why not toasted? I know why from you, but why not toasted? And the other one is why no sandwiches?
So the no toasting is twofold. The first one is, as purists and really people who I have to take it all the way back to when we were baking in our house. I was baking hot bagels for Danielle and I and the family, and we were just eating them hot out of the oven. No need to be toasted. An hour later on the counter, still soft and delicious, no need to be toasted. They're just fresh baked goods. You wouldn't take a fresh baked cookie and recook it. So kind of the same idea. Second piece of that, which I think is where when we moved into the store, our whole idea was just to do what we were doing at home. And we were selling these bagels online. People would pick up bagels that I had baked at 4:00 in the morning. I didn't even know what time they came. They were just in a rubber tote on my porch, So those were not the freshest bagels that anybody was eating, but they're still telling me this is the best bagel they ever had. So the very first time someone came into the shop and they were like, hey, let me get an everything bagel double toasted. We're like, Danielle and I just looked at each other. We're like, we don't have a toaster. We hadn't even thought about it. I don't know if we could have afforded it, honestly, at that time, but we didn't even have it. We just sort of we don't toast bagels, and it sort of stuck. And I think we built an entire tech stack internally that creates a baking system that is so constantly spitting out new bakes for our team in the back to execute on. And that if they're doing that systematically, there's always something hot in the rack. Now, if you come in and say, hey, sesame's not hot, but I got poppy hot. Do you want a poppy? Or, jalapeno cheddar just came out of the oven. Grab your sesame. I'm going to throw a jalapeno cheddar in the bag for you. That's the experience you should have. And maybe sesame's hot next time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, in my world, my favorite rosemary salt because of you, jalapeno cheddar, and then pretty much I always go, what's hot? That's what I want. And I usually will make that one if I haven't ordered it already. I'll be like, "What's hot? That's my road bagel." I need a transportation bagel to go. So sometimes I get, instead of 6, I get 7 bagels so that I know my family doesn't know that I ate a bagel coming home when I go pick it up.
I love that. But that listen, a bagel for the car is important. And
heck yeah,
you got to do it. And if it's a hot one, it's even better. You also asked about sandwiches. We explored that idea really early on. Danielle and I. People asked us for it. So I think we did once or twice a pre-order on Sunday afternoon. So you got to remember, in the early days, it was literally me and Danielle. And then we hired 2 people to help. And then we finally started building a team, maybe 3 months into it. But we had no time. I was rolling every bagel. I was baking every bagel. So the idea of hitting a grill, making eggs and bacon and all this stuff, it didn't feel possible without all this labor and capital investment into equipment, stuff like that. So I think we posted this idea of if, Sunday at 11 o'clock, if you want to have brunch with us, I'll make you a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich, but you got to pre-order it and prepay for it. And I did that. And I think we sold 20 of them. And the first time I did that, I was like, there's no way. This is a 3-person operation. I'm one human with a skillet. This is just not going to happen. And, and then people stopped asking. So occasionally newbies come in and they'll be like, hey, can I get a bacon, egg, and cheese? And I was like, this is your first visit, right? And they're like, yeah, we heard about this place. It's really, someone told me it's really good. I was like, well, let's tell you who we are. We're Scratch Bakery. Everything you see on this rack's been made in house. The bagel you're eating today, this is my favorite line. The bagel you're eating today was in a bag of flour yesterday. And most bagel shops that are at the scale that we're at can't say that.
No, and I think, and I know at one point you did, especially during Thanksgiving, you did like your protein, like a protein box with like your turkey and stuff like that. Listen, I get it. Like, I totally understand, especially in the realm of what you guys are creating and what you're doing. Keep it simple, right? Keep it simple. You want to make a sandwich? That's great, and that's what I do. I'll buy extra bagels, and then if I want to make a tuna sandwich with a bagel, I'll just make it at home, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with. The other one I've heard is, oh, well, they don't do like the New York style cream cheese where they put like they slather all the cream cheese. I'm like, but you get to do that. Like you get to buy it and you do it. I was like, you get to put as much cream cheese as you want on it. I'm like, because you get to just buy the cream cheese and you get to pick 16 flavors versus only 1 or 2 somewhere else. So like, there's got to be a give and take, but I understand in the sense of like trying to in the production side of things, but I know that these are things that you hear probably more often than you want to. It's kind of like people asking me about hot dogs and sandwiches. I'm like, I don't need to hear it. I don't really care. Eat what you want, but that's kind of how it is. Like I see it.
Yeah, it's I think it's just such an opportunity for us to tell someone our story, and it's also okay to not be everything for everyone, and that's really hard as a business owner. And when you're a franchisee and you've invested, I don't know, $500,000, $600,000 into building a bagel shop. You've got a 10-year lease on a space that you owe X amount of money on, and you've got all these employees, and someone walks in and they're like, oh, I'm never coming back here because you don't make sandwiches. It's like, well, you want to be like, I can do that for you. But sometimes you have to let that person go. And if the product is great, if the experience is great, they'll come back, because the likelihood that they're getting a good bagel in the town they're in somewhere else is pretty low.
No, I totally get that. I'm kind of, and this is just kind of me being small business owner to having you, because like there's a lot of bagel, like I'm seeing a lot more bagel places pop up.
Oh, yeah.
So you're definitely getting more competition, and I've seen in a variety of different places, and people are kind of being like, "Oh, this is a good idea. Let's do this." Or so you're seeing people from like some New York brands try to come in and insert themselves, and other people trying to do New York bagels. And obviously, one of the big things that I will probably say in defense of being a Jeff's Bagel Run guy, a lot of those bagels are actually flown in, and they're not actually made in house or made in house. But have you noticed, and how difficult has that been, like now as you guys keep expanding and then seeing more bagel places kind of pop up around, especially here in Central Florida, but around the country?
Yeah. So this is a really interesting time to be in the bagel business, because there's a lot of eyes on bagels. I mean, I wouldn't say I was featured, but I was quoted and interviewed by a New York Times writer about the bagel boom. And wow, it's like, that's crazy to be in the New York Times talking about bagels. Feels nuts in the world that we live in today, and kind of all the other things they could be writing about, right? But it's because I think people have this nostalgia for a food that they loved for so long, and there's just not a lot of it readily available being done well. And I think some of the like, what would the word be, like the incumbents that have been here for a while, they really optimized, through their development, multiple sales, bankruptcies, whatever they've been through, they had to optimize somewhere, and they felt like the way to do it was through frozen dough product. And that frozen dough product just doesn't hold up as a bagel. So then suddenly you're a sandwich shop. And I think that's what I see in the direct competition in the majority of the bagel shops that are scaling right now, is their menus are a lot broader than ours. And I think that's the challenge we face, is how do we stay relevant and innovative in a world where people are going to come in. But in the Orlando market, we have a staple in town. Bagel King has been around for a long time. They're kind of like the OG standard New York style bagel deli experience, kind of a diner, really, their original location, right? And they have good bagels there. But that's like, they have a bagel, I think they have an express location somewhere, right?
Yep, Winter Park.
Yeah. But, if you live in Claremont, you're not going to Winter Park to get a bagel. You're not going to Castleberry to get a bagel. So I think when your choices out there are like Einstein, it's it's easy to open up. And I think there's just so much demand. I think back to this quote that I had. The Orlando Business Journal asked me a question in 2000, I guess it was 22, when we opened our second store in College Park. They're like, how does somebody get a Jeff's Bagel run in my neighborhood, in their neighborhood? And I said, well, I was like, and this was when I was really kind of young and naive in my experience. I was like, listen, if you can find me a second generation kitchen and a community that can buy 5,000 bagels a week, then, we probably have a business. And I think that held true back then when we were open 5 days a week and it was a little smaller operation, kind of bootstrappy, scrappy kind of business. Probably now it's more like 8,000 bagels a week, but still there's a community that's going to buy 8,000 bagels a week because they don't just buy bagels. They buy cream cheese, they buy coffee, they come 3-4 times a week. They invest in us, we invest back in them. And I think that's great. Also, I don't know if you know this or not, but the breakfast business is like $241 billion worth of, wallet share. So wow. There's a lot of room for all of us, whether it's, Jeff's Bagel Run or somebody else. I think plenty of people to eat bagels.
So I know you mentioned you're doing like the franchise aspect of it. And then you guys, it sounds like there's the franchise ones, but there's also the ones that corporate wise. So like the ones that you guys own that you guys are actually growing and doing. How do you decide, how does that, like, especially in Central Florida, I'm more curious of Central Florida, because obviously I'm assuming you have demographics and research, but I'm curious, like in Central Florida, as you keep growing in Central Florida, like how do you decide where to go next? How much, like, like, hey, we can't go, like, is there a certain distance where you're kind of like, it's kind of like the idea of like owning your backyard and then kind of going in the circle? Is there like, oh no, too far of a region competing from our other Jeff's Bagel runs, so we don't want to go that close or whatnot? Like, how do you guys figure that part out? And then when you're, especially as you're doing the corporate ones that you're trying to actually look to do, and then I'll go with that. And then I have another question on the same aspect, but like with franchisees.
Okay. Yeah. So Central Florida, we have like a little corporate development zone that we work within. And like we know we have stores in Altamont and in Lake Mary, also in Apopka. So like that's kind of the northern fringe of the corporate zone. Those 3 stores are all franchisees, local franchisees. And then if you go to the kind of I guess it's like the southwest end of the Central Florida market, Celebration is a franchise store. Started as a corporate location, a franchisee that is going to be like developing Champions Gate, Winter Haven area, picked that store up because it just made sense. And so when we think about our corporate territory and our franchisees and the territories that they're building in, we know from data that our customers are traveling somewhere between 3 and 5 miles to get a bagel. That's it. 5 miles is like the long distance they travel to come get a bagel. We use some data from a company called Placer AI that tracks, it's creepy, they track groups of people and based on where their cell phone locations are. And they know like when you leave your home and you go to this place and then you go to that place, whatever it looks like. So it's pretty neat to be able to see that data in real time happening. We use that as a way to help select locations. And sometimes it comes right down to like, this is a neighborhood that we want to be in. And because we want to be there, you make it work, right? We just opened the Colonial location, State Road 50, right by the Old Fashioned Square Mall.
Getting closer to my house, by the way. Just so you know, I'm like we're slowly getting there. The 2 things that my plugs were going to be, is there one, can we get one inside of UCF? Because that's one of the things my daughter was like, hey, can we get a UCF one? I was like, well, you have one in Oviedo, but she's like, can we get a UCF one? And then I live in East Orlando, like near Waterford Lakes area. And I'm like, can we get one so that I'm not going to East Colonial or Oviedo? I'm like, that's the one I'm waiting for.
Yeah, East Orlando would be great. We definitely know there's a market over there. I think Waterford Lakes, or I don't know what the neighborhood is called when you drive past Waterford and you get closer to
Avalon area.
Avalon?
Yeah.
I think
that one's too far.
Okay, too far.
Yeah. Right. No, that one's too far. Like, I mean, you could do one out there like in the area, but I do think that there is, because, and the only reason I even, as we'll say this, is because I used to go to a bagel shop when I was at UCF, and we used to drive to one on East Colonial and like the Alafaya East Colonial intersection. Like there was one there that I used to go to. And that's like the one thing that I'm like, I'd be very dangerous, because like I have friends that go to your bagel shops all over. And then I'm like, if I had that one, I'm like, that would be dangerous for me on a Saturday or on a weekend for me to go pick up my bagel when I need it.
Too close.
It's like, it's, cause I am the past the 5 mile radius to get to some of these spots. So that's why I was kind of curious on it. And then, So is the idea also the same thing since you do that way, which makes sense? So you basically can you're creating corporate spots, but then later on a franchisee can probably absorb it as one of them as they do it. And is that something that you're kind of looking at as well to do, like when you go to other states? Like you're looking at areas where like, hey, we're going to put we don't have, like, we want to get some franchisees or we want to grow in this area. So we're going to, I don't know, I'll use Chicago, Illinois as an example. I'll go to Illinois or Tennessee and I'll just like put a location here and see what we can do and see what we can create.
So that's a strategy that some brands deploy. We've thought about that because there are some markets where we might, I'm trying to think of when this happened recently. We have a franchisee in the Raleigh market. He's out kind of on the east side in the Wake Forest, Roseville, going to open up in Glen Lake. But there was I think it was his realtor or someone in that firm had come to us as a brand and said, hey, we've got a location like across the street from like UNC Chapel Hill, and we think you need to open it. And we're like, there's no one to run it. Like it's just not, it's a great location and the timing was really bad, right? But we thought, well, could we open it as a corporate store and then build around a franchisee around that? And so we said no. We thought that's not our model. We're not going to do that. But when we think about trade areas and we look at like a Raleigh, Durham, that triangle area in North Carolina, there could be 4 or 5 franchisees in that area, just depending upon how many stores they're interested in trying to open. The demographics play a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? They weigh heavily into the decision-making process. And household rooftops is a number that we look at that is just incredibly valuable. Like if you're listening to this podcast because you're a small business owner and you're thinking, I want to expand my business, if you're not looking at the number of household rooftops within a 3-mile radius of the place that you're leasing, you need to do that. That's like the number one indicator to success.
I love that. And I love the fact of like, that was the reason why I was curious. And I love the fact of your answer of like, because I was trying to figure that out. I was like, hey, I'm like, well, that would make sense. You just like, you hit the spot and you go, but it's also so difficult. I mean, at this point in time in your model to be able to do something like that, who knows, maybe as you start developing and you're at your 100th, you're already past your 100th location and you have another one and you're like, yeah, we could do this. But that makes total sense to be able to do that. All right. So one of the things that I started doing and that I love doing, and I'm very curious to see what you're going to go with. I've been having my guests manifest for themselves and for their businesses. So I want you to manifest for yourself and for Jeff's Bagel Run. What do you want to manifest?
Man, this is so great. For myself, I'd love to manifest playing more golf.
Okay.
That'd be awesome. I'd love to get a little more time out on the course. It's hard in the summertime though, but that would be fun. I'd love to play some more golf personally, just to get out and relax.
Yeah.
For the business,
some grass.
Yeah, touch some grass for real, like real grass. For the business, I want to manifest success for our franchisees because as we build this business, Danielle and I run our Ocoee location. When we first started this process and we opened our second store we had, we sold it to Justin because he didn't have a store and he realized, holy cow, it's going to take a long time to develop a store. So he took one, we had one. And, that's how Danielle and I live our life. Jeff's Bagel Run with 35 stores and 120 stores in development is a business that is constantly reinvested in. And so this is going to be crazy. I don't make any money from Jeff's Bagel Run. My store makes money and we live a nice life, but Jeff's Bagel Run is really about bringing value to people who are interested in investing in us. So when a franchisee says, I want to open 5 stores or 3 stores or whatever, and I'm going to take a risk on you and I'm going to invest this money that I have earned and have worked really hard for, and I want to bring bagels to my community, like I just wish them the most success. Like I want their success because ultimately, if they can get that same joy that I had from that, like seeing Danielle take that first bite, or they can feel success of being a place in their community where people come to feel seen, appreciated, and, enjoy having, breaking some bread with them, that'd be my manifestation. So
I love that. What advice do you have for someone wanting to start something?
Do it. I think it's the same advice I gave you 5 years ago. Just do it. Do the thing. That's it. You're your biggest roadblock. You thinking that someone cares so much about you that you won't do something is the hurdle, man. Like, I don't know who the quote comes from. So maybe you could find it and attribute it in the show notes or something. But like the quote that I like live by is, what you think about me is none of my business.
I love that.
And I don't know, I got to this place. I think I got to this place probably right after I lost my job and I was like a stay-at-home dad, and I was like going to the playground with my kids and like everybody's looking at me like, who's this loser? That's what I thought. Turns out that's not what they were thinking at all. They're like, okay, here's just some dad taking care of his kids. That's pretty cool. Like, and I was like, I realized that I think if you put too much emphasis on what other people think about you, I mean, be kind, don't be a jerk, kind of basic decency type stuff. But if you don't like the fact that I wear black shirts with Jeff's Bagel Run logo on it, that's how you feel about me. So
no, I love that. I love that. Where can people follow you and enjoy your bagels, your spread, and your coffee, as well as listen to your podcast, The Weekly Run?
I did start a podcast this year. It was on the bucket list. I was really excited about it. I sort of love it. It's a lot of fun. So The Weekly Run is available on all podcast platforms. You can listen to it. We're about 20 episodes deep already.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We kind of got over that hurdle of the early time. It was great. It's a weekly podcast that gives you insights into the behind the scenes of what's happening at Jeff's Bagel Run. So it's fun.
Do you guys do that? I know you do it like it's a weekly, right? And then are you, because I saw from what I was reading behind the scenes. So like, are you guys going from like the very beginning talking about like how it started, or is it just behind the scenes, or a mix of both?
It's a bit of a mix of both. I think you could pick up on episode 21 next week and just be fine. You don't have to go back and listen to the other 20. It is more of we literally start the podcast with what's hot at Jeff's Bagel Run. And we just start, it's kind of like a tell-all for what's been happening that week, which is fun. But we're everywhere at Jeff's Bagel Run on all handles. If you want to follow the podcast now has an Instagram as well, at The Weekly Run Pod. We're trying, man. Telling our story is like, I don't know. This is where everyone's attention lives. And if you're not relevant there, you're probably not relevant anywhere. So we're just trying to tell our story.
No, and I love it. I'm glad to see it, because I think more businesses need to be able to share that story, especially when it comes to it. And that's one of the big things that I was very happy to be able to see that, that you were actually, that I saw that. And it is going to be on my weekly rotation of podcasts to listen, because I love all the behind the scenes type of stuff like this when it comes to, especially with like a story of so successfulness. Let me tell you, I really appreciate you coming on again. I sometimes will jokingly tell people, I'm like, hey, I got an eye, because look at some of the people that I've had in my podcast when they first started. But a lot of it is, I am just so proud of you guys for what you guys have done, and like just like all the great work you guys really do. Like I know, like, Jeff mentions, like being part of the community. Like there's a huge area. Like if you ever go to a run or a charity event or something, they're always somehow involved in some form or fashion. They're involved in there. I pretty much have seen I got inducted into the UCF College of Business Hall of Fame. Jeff's Bagel Run logo was there. My daughter, best buddies, Jeff's Bagel Run was there. I mean, it's like, you name it, like they're like, hey, we want to be part of the community. We're here to help. And I think that's such a huge part on that, the philanthropic, in that aspect of being part of the community. And I just love, man, what you guys are doing. And I'm just so incredibly happy for you, Glenn, Danielle, everyone, and, in your group, for what you guys have done. And the fact that you guys make a good quality product, you know what I mean? And that's like really the big thing. And I'm just excited for you. And I just really thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Man, thank you. And it's been fun to be on this journey with so many people who've supported us along the way. And, Anthony, you and the family have been a part of it from the beginning. And it's really cool it's great. I'll come back for episode 500, whatever, wherever you're at. Like, we'll keep telling the story.
I appreciate it.
I think it's fun. I'm really grateful to have met you and to be a part of this story as well.
Yeah, man. It's definitely, it's been great. So if you have not, depending on where you're listening to this, obviously, like we mentioned, 35 locations, many more to come. Maybe one in East Orlando one day will come. Let's say east of Orlando, not Colonial, East Colonial. You may see one there, but I will say, if you have, Obviously make sure use the app. The app is your friend, so you're not sleeping in. Make sure you use the app to order your bagels. You get some points as well. Make sure to get a coffee. Do not sleep on the coffee. That is my one tip for sure. Always get a hot one as well, but always get a coffee. That's our show for today. Thank you so much to Jeff Perera from Jeff's Bagel Run for being on and being my 200th guest. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe, make sure to follow them, make sure to listen to his podcast. If you enjoyed my show, make sure to, subscribe to the show. If you want to support my brand, check out Deli Fresh Threads. But thank you until next time. Keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.